Hello, everybody. Bienvenidos. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here back for another Bella interview, and I'm super excited to have Miss Marcella Adriana Badillo, who is the owner, the founder, the creative, the amazing owner of Aura Creatives. Welcome, Marcella.
Hi, I'm so excited to be on. I've been looking forward to this interview. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, we follow you. We'd love to see as your journey has begun. And so I'm really excited to just dive in, get to know you, who you are, what brought you to this space, what your plans are, all of those good things. So let's just start off and just have you tell everyone just a little bit about you, like who you are. Who is Marcella? You describe yourself. Give us a little bit of that.
Okay, so I'm multi-passionate. I'm an entrepreneur. I lovingly say that I'm a mother by birth and heart because I did adopt my son and then I had my daughter naturally. I'm married. I've been with my husband for many, many years. He's one of my biggest supporters, and I'm going on this journey and I'm just so excited to be able to share it with all of the people that I've been able to meet along the way. And Bea, you guys have been one of the people that I've gotten to meet on this journey. So I'm really excited for this.
That's really awesome. Well, we love to make sure that we highlight what I like to call the human behind the business, right? Because we have our business as our creative outlet, as a way to also build wealth, as a way to give back with and be alongside our community, right? There's so many reasons why we found a business, we start a business, but we don't want to lose sight of the human and the person that is doing a lot of work and the team that's doing all the work. So I always like to start with, just introducing you as Marcella, you as a person. But let's get into the business a little bit, just so people, are understanding what is the business. So tell us a little bit about your business. Is it a service based? Is it product based? Like, what is your business all about?
What's so funny is that people are really confused. So I'm very glad that you're asking me this question. It's a good one. So we're a multi-purpose space, and it's designed in such a way that the front separates itself from the multi-purpose side. So the front end, we're using it as a retail space. And so right now we currently are showcasing 7 local businesses, and like we say, the best talent of our community. So we have them featured, and it's a consignment basis. So people bring in their items, or a lot of the people that we started off with, they came to our soft opening and they just kind of shared with us their product. We shared with them the consignment kind of basis that we have for it, and then they signed up on board. So this is not something that we're going to keep the same vendors month after month if they don't want to. It's just an opportunity for them to get their items out there. Now, if they want to be with us for years to come, that's also, we're open to it, but we want to definitely give the community an opportunity to showcase their work. I came from a background where I was vending at markets. And so I noticed that once the markets were done, we were kind of like, what do we do now? And so we were left to just kind of show up on social media. And so that's what I was doing. And then I won't jump the gun, but the other side of our business is the multi-purpose space. So that space is utilized for networking events, for photo shoots, for just opportunities for people to connect. And so the space could be rented by the hour. So that's how the multi-purpose space works. And that's the concept of our business. We're a retail multi-purpose space in Lincoln Heights.
That's beautiful. And I think you're really making the best use out of the physical space that you have, right? You're providing this opportunity for others, and in different ways. So through the products, but also through space, because there's so many, I think, groups, businesses, different folks that look for a space to host kind of community gatherings or workshops. I know we're one of them ourselves too. So I'll be calling you for that later. But that's really great. And thank you for explaining that, because you're right. Sometimes I think in these kind of more cooperative or collective type of businesses, some folks don't really understand how it works. So I think that was really clear and succinct in how you describe that. So let's take a pause from the business side for now, and we're going to we want to know, like, you as a little Marcella growing up in your childhood, how was that for you? Like, can you kind of walk us through your journey? So we want to know a little bit about you growing up. How were you as a child? Did you have this dream and ambition to own a space and be a business owner one day? Or, how was it growing up? So share a little bit about that.
This is the part where you bring out the tears, right? So as a young girl, I was very, very shy. So I went to a private school and I was being bullied, like really being bullied. So on top of being shy, I was really being bullied. So my mom moved me schools, and that's kind of when I started kind of flourishing a little bit, because I was in a new environment. And the new environment helped me foster relationships and friendships. And from those friendships, my personality really started to come out. So I don't think initially you would have ever thought when I was a little girl that I would have this, persona or this personality, because I do have a big personality naturally, but it wasn't the case when I was really little. And so, being bullied really is one of the things that I still carry with me and propels me forward. Instead of, holding me back and holding me down, I have that like desire to prove people wrong kind of thing. So it's one of those things that I feel like is definitely part of my story and part of the reason I am who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And also another part of my story is, I come from a lineage of like entrepreneurs and, very hardworking, people. So I think that also plays a big part in just, always believing in myself, betting on myself, because I have that foundation. That's what I come from.
So yeah, the entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is something that lives clearly. It shines through in you. I think that just in you, as you're starting to share your story with us and what I've seen, on social media, and again, just the courage to have started this business and to provide that space for others is, I think, it's that characteristic, that quality that lives inside of you, right? And that lives inside of entrepreneurs in general. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your background and how you grew up. And I agree with you. I think that, having our experiences, both good and bad, are the ones that shape us, right? Shape who we are today. And as adults, hopefully it gets a little easier and we can see how kind of all those experiences like brought us to this point, right? Brought you to this point, and really have given you a lot of strength and resiliency in doing this, because it's not easy. I can't imagine that you wake up every morning, you're like, I'm good, everything's perfect,
Wouldn't that be nice?
So let's talk a little bit about Aura Creatives and how did you come up with that concept? So I know you talked a little bit about the purpose of, or kind of like what your business is. But in terms of the concept specifically, even the name, I'm so fascinated by the name that you choose and why. What kind of significance does it have? And what inspired really to kind of, because there's could be this gap, right? So there's this, like, I've been doing this vending, and then you start the actual business, opens its doors, but there's all this in between, right? So tell us a little bit about that, how that concept came to be and what inspired you.
So first, I've always been surrounded by people or needed people. So the beginning of my journey was fostering. And so I had a network of people that were my like support group that were also foster moms. And from there, I started mommy meetups. And so we would do some mommy meetups, and it ended up being just regular moms too, foster moms, adoptive moms, regular moms. And we were looking for venue spaces, and we just like noticed how like expensive they are to like rent these spaces. And so we kind of had to like slow down a little bit and how much events that we can have. And, you can only go to the park so much. And like, mommies want like a more of an experience. We wanted to make sure that it was something a little bit more, memorable. So I definitely, that's part of the concept for our creatives is an open concept for people to do whatever it is that they creatively have come up with, and make it accessible, right? Make it accessible, because these are my experiences where I realize, like, man, we could have these ideas, but in order for us to be able to carry them out, you need a lot of funding. And sometimes we don't have that. And our whole motivation is to uplift people and, make it accessible. So that's part of our creatives, is the multi-purpose side. And then you have the retail side, which, I was a vendor. And so I know what it is to have a product and need a space to show it off, and something that's kind of stays put, unlike a market, which I love markets. We just put on a market for our grand opening. It was an incredible turnout. I mean, we had so many different people, come out to our space because of all the vendors that were there. So we know the power of us linking arms. And so we want to continue to link arms with our community so that we can just, grow. And I want to see more of us, doing things like this. I think that there's so many people that I've looked up to and that really have helped me and supported me, that I just want to do that for the next generation to come.
And did you decide Lincoln Heights because that's where you live, or because, how was that process for you of like finding the space? Because I think sometimes that's, a challenge in and of itself, is trying to figure out like where, location, and why, all those things.
I think that's the most beautiful part of our story. My mom has been a Lincoln Heights business owner for 22 plus years. And so she started off at the Lincoln Mini Mall, and she was selling like party supplies when, this was before it became popular to have these like big elaborate parties. So essentially she was selling recuerdos and piñatas and plates and napkins. And so when that kind of went out of style and that wasn't a thing anymore, she went into taxes, and she was a tax preparer, and she needed an office space. And so she wanted to stay in Lincoln Heights because she had made such connection to the community. So that's where we're at now. And what happened was that, my mom was there 15 years. The pandemic happened. She got older and she didn't want to drive so far. She's not a Lincoln Heights resident. So she was ready to, have an office closer to home. And she was struggling with it. And I had worked in her office for some time during the pandemic because I was in the school system. So we were working remotely. And so I kind of started, making some changes, I like to say, to make it a little bit more modern. And so I started falling more in love with the space. And so when she was thinking of leaving it, I was like, no, Mom, like, you can do it. And she's like, I want to stay, but I want to go. And so she was really conflicted. And I just decided, you know what, like, I could do this. And this was before I asked my sister to be my partner. I thought that I could do it all by myself. And I found out quickly that it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of resources, time, energy. And I have a full-time job. So I asked my sister, I said, hey, like, do you want to keep this? Like, what do you think? And my sister is very, she has a financial background. And so she has that money strength that I don't have. I'm very like social, and community is my thing, and, networking. But my sister is the one that has like a sound mind. And she said, okay, she said, you have 6 months to get this off the ground, because I was holding on to it for a while, paying and not really like getting anywhere, because I also have that side of me that wants things to be perfect. Like, I want them to look a certain way. I want to have just the right things, and that's not how business is, right? So my sister just gave me a deadline, and she said, you got to show me that this is going to be something that's going to be profitable. If not, I'm out. So that just gave me that like fire. And so I got that fire under me. And luckily, like I said, I've planted a lot of seeds. I have a lot of people that I've been collaborating with, even without a space. And so they were very supportive for me to get started.
I love that. I hear so many things in that. I hear, having kind of that partner to support you, to encourage you, to give you that firm and real talk as well if you need it. That accountability buddy, right? To say like, we got to get this. This is our goal. Let's do it. And you're not alone, because I'm here too, right? I think it's so important to have whatever support system we need and having that direct link like that. So having your sister as your partner, I could see how that like really has helped fuel, like you said, it gave you the energy. Complementing of the, strengths. I think that's key because you're right. Business owners, entrepreneurs, mujeres in business, the feeling is like, I have to know how to do it all and I have to do it well. Right. And it's hard for us to branch out and be like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to have the answer. It's okay to trust. Right. And it's scary, right? Like we don't want to just trust anyone that we're just meeting for the first time. But when you have that and you seek it out, because there was some intentionality on your part to seek that out as well, to say, hey, I need support doing this. I think that's definitely just, I'm glad you're sharing it because I don't think we always see that side of the business, right? We see kind of what we see on the feed, on the social media.
Yeah.
Right? Like, wow, this is so like, oh, wow, this looks so beautiful. And it does, but that's took a lot of work.
Yeah, it's like when you go over to somebody's house, right? And they have things stuffed in the like closet, they have shoes like that they just hid because that it's messy, but it's really messy. And of course we want to, put our best foot forward. But the reality is that owning a business is really hard and it is messy. And, I just shared it on a post the other day of, things that I've learned as a business owner. And one of them was that like plumbing and electrical issues will always come up and you have to keep rolling as though they're not a thing, and it's just, that's the reality. Like things could look picture perfect, but behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And that's keeping it 110%. So thank you for that. And so you spoke to it, throughout. I'm hearing kind of a theme around like purpose and community, and you want to give back. But what is your purpose and your mission of your business do? How does that fulfill you as a person, right? How does that align with your values? Because there's clearly a connection. I think we see this time and time again where you're driven by a personal desire, right? Personal values, but it's ultimately linked directly into how you operate your business, why you operate your business, what you do, and those kinds of things. So can you speak a little bit to how that personal fulfillment aligns with like what we're all seeing as consumers and as viewers of your business starting out and growing?
To me, the word that comes to mind is legacy. My grandmother, I hold her very near and dear to my heart, and she was a homemaker, but she had such a huge impact. So I don't think it's necessarily what I am on paper. I don't think that's what it is, but I want to leave a legacy. So that's what it is for me that propels me. And I just want to do as much good as I can. And for me, it's just giving back, it's giving back and using my strengths. When I became a foster mom, I had been working with children in the inner city, and I seen, families broken up and the need for there to be somebody to step up and kind of, hold on to these children until their parents, got on their feet. And that's initially what I started doing with my life. And when I adopted my son, I was like, there's also people that are starting businesses, and how can I support these people that are starting businesses, because I'm also starting a business. So I always think about like what I can do and what I can leave behind. I don't want to just take, I want to leave behind something. And that's because of, of course, my foundation and the legacy that was set forth in my own family, and my grandmother just being that matriarch that just, I still, I'm following in her footsteps.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so, I mean, it shines through. It's so beautiful to hear you say that, because I think what you're saying clearly aligns with the actions and what we're seeing as consumers, as observers of you and your business. And so I know that you had shared a little bit about it's not easy and there's, all these things you need. And so what struggles did you face that you could, feel comfortable sharing with us, all the listeners? And how did you overcome those challenges or struggles?
So I think initially, it was the whole money aspect. I didn't know much about grants, and I didn't want to take out any like big loans. So I think that part, I learned a lot along the way, because that was one of the things that I struggle with, right? Like, I don't recognize how much money things take. And so when I first started my business, I didn't know a lot about what resources were out there. And I was kind of doing it blindly. And it's kind of a different concept because my mom already had some things in play and I was just kind of taking it over. And so like business formation was one of the things that I think I wish I would have had the blueprint before I jumped into it, because there was a lot of financial stressors in the beginning. And then once I got, my sister as a partner, I recognized that now the business was not just mine and I couldn't make decisions solely on my own. So that's something that even now I'm still managing, how, a partnership works in business. So that was definitely a learning curve. And then I think the other thing is how long things take, like we needed to do some work in the location and I didn't realize how long it would take. So, time is money. And so one of those things was, not having that security to like kind of propel us, which brought on a little bit more of a stressor. So, starting a business is really hard, and there's a lot of planning that you should do beforehand. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I wish I would have taken more into consideration. Those were the struggles. But luckily and fortunately, I was able to, partner up with my sister, and we were able to like figure it out. But I think that's one of the things that I would give as an advice is, just do your homework before and try to get that business formation prior to committing yourself, because it does bring on a lot of headaches.
Yeah. And so what would you say from like concept to opening your doors? Like, what did that timeline look like?
Ooh. I would say like a year and some change. Yeah. Yeah. So I have the location for some time, and then it took like 6 months of actually like making it, jazzing it up and getting the creatives in the store and publicly putting it out there. It probably was like a year and some change. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's, and I asked that question and thank you for answering honestly, because again, that's something else that sometimes we think like, wow, they're doing this now. Like they just kind of opened up their doors and they're doing it, right? It's like, no, it took a year and a half to get me here, right? From initial, and even before that, because like you said, you had kind of that space available to you per se, even before you had maybe kind of identified it as what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But even through that, it still took, some time to get that together. So
yeah, and the whole concept, making sure that it was something that, was a concept that we were going to be able to work that concept. So it took a year and some change. And I think that it all had to do with not knowing everything before getting started. And I always say, shoot your shot. Like nothing's going to be perfect, but I would say that there's a lot of business formation that you should consider before even thinking about it.
And so what would you say, and you touched on a couple of, advice that you would give, but what would you say to women that are like just really excited to get started? Because I think I hear you saying that. I think even personally for me, and I've talked to women about this, and I hear this too, is like you have that fire and that fuel, and you just want to do it, right? Like you don't want to wait. And so and I'm hearing that the planning is important, and it is, right? And so how do you balance that like thing with yourself, knowing that you have to plan, you should plan, right? There's things you got, and this like, burning fire, right? You just like want to do, and you want to start, and you want to like, where do we all find that balance, you think?
Oh, I'm not the right person for that question. Because I just go for it, like I'm working that out. And I mean, to be honest with you, just going for it has like paid off for me. I mean, So I would just say though that you definitely need to know your purpose and your why, because there will be moments that are very, very hard and you're going to want to throw in the towel. But if you know your purpose, your why, like the reason why you want to do this thing, then you'll be okay. But I am definitely one of those women that are just like, if an idea comes into mind, I just go for it. Because if I think about it too much, I'm gonna find like 10 different reasons why I shouldn't do it. So that's my best advice. Just make sure you know your why, because you'll need it. There'll be times when you'll definitely need it.
Yeah, that's great. I think the discerning maybe looks different for everyone too. Like there's some things you can move a little faster in, and there's some things that maybe you should slow down, depending on the industry too, right? Like I think you have a physical space, so that adds a whole different layer than to someone that maybe doesn't have, maybe it's purely an online business, right? And that kind of thing. So I think it's really figuring out kind of your service delivery, like what are the little nuances in there, right, that I should be thinking about that maybe aren't the same as someone that has a brick and mortar or someone that has just an online, it may look
Yeah, I'm
different.
taking notes right now because I was like, none of those things I ever take into consideration. So I'm taking note.
That's great. Well, what for those women that are out there, Latina women, I love how you mentioned just building your legacy, and I could tell that sit here a lot in you, right? When you were talking about your legacy and building, I really feel that you're building for self, for family, but also for community and for just sustainability, right? To give that opportunity to others. And I know that you're touching people in ways that you one see and others that you don't see and you have no clue, and yet you're still impacting people's lives in such a profound way. And so what other advice or what kind of words of wisdom would you give to other Latina women that are thinking about starting a venture or a business and are having doubts, really? What would you say to those women?
I think do things without expectation. Lead with your heart. When you do something, don't expect something in return, and always like be heart centered, because I think that that's gonna ultimately help you have a long lasting, opportunities to meet and network with people, as if you don't have that expectation that you're connecting with people to get something in return. You're just doing it out of love. And I noticed that, being heart centered, I've gotten the most genuine connections. So I would say, just do things with love, con mucho amor.
Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. Yes, don't lose sight of that, women, mujeres that are out there listening. Remember why you started this, right? Remember why. I love how you say remember your why. It's like always come back to that, because that's going to center you. It's going to center all of us into getting through those tough times, which will come, right? They will come. So as we're kind of closing down and winding down our time together, is there anything else you want to share with the folks that are listening about you, your journey, your business, a plug-in, come visit me? No.
I was going to say, is this the opportunity where I could say,
Yeah.
come visit us? So, I would just say get connected. So get connected with Aura Creatives Co. We're now open. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. We are always posting events that we have going on that are collaborations. So our pillars are connect, collaborate, community. So we're definitely going to be showcasing a lot of other businesses and having collaborations in our space. So we would just say get connected. We're there and we're here for the community. Like ultimately, we want to see a lot of creatives come through our space.
Well, Marcella, you are a shining light. I feel like I hope folks out of this, I know out of listening to this interview, they're going to get inspired by your story and what you've shared with us today. For all of you that are thinking about starting a business, get it started, but remember to make time to plan.
Yes.
And go visit Marcella and her team. Thank you so much for this time with us and sharing your story, Marcela. And know that, you know, you always have a place with us too, and however we can support you. But for everyone listening, thank you so much. Thank you, Marcela, for your time. And
Thank
until next time,
you.
see you later.